always say the story really started the afternoon of Jessica's bridal shower, even though all the tiny humiliations had been piling up long before that. But that was the day my family took their usual condescension and wrapped it up in pastel gift bags and faux smiles. I remember walking into my Aunt Margaret's house, carrying a simple white box tied with a silk ribbon. The whole place smelt like vanilla candles and rose water, and soft acoustic music played in the background. Everyone there seemed perfectly curated, from Jessica's friends in matching blush dresses to my aunt's neighbors who looked like they stepped out of a country club catalog. I walked in wearing a cream satin blouse tucked into tailored black trousers, with my hair pinned back loosely. Simple, clean, elegant. But the moment I entered, I could feel it. The shift, the quiet judgments, the once-over glances. My family never knew what to do with me. To them, I was the invisible cousin, the one who never quite fit, the one who still hadn't settled down. The girl with no husband, no kids, no glamorous job title that sounded impressive at holiday dinners. Aunt Margaret approached me first. She kissed the air near my cheek and said, "Emma, darling, you made it. We weren't sure you'd come since you're always busy with whatever it is you do." I smiled politely. "Nice to see you too, Aunt Margaret." She let her eyes trail down my outfit. "You look simple today. Understated. It's refreshing." They always did this. Compliments with tiny knives hidden inside. But what they didn't know was something that already felt like electricity under my skin. Something I had kept quiet for almost 2 years now. Something they would all see soon enough. But I didn't plan to reveal anything that day. I genuinely wanted to celebrate Jessica without drama. Little did my family realize that the necklace resting softly against my collarbone, delicate, platinum, with a teardrop-shaped diamond, was worth $320,000. They assumed it was fashion jewelry. Fake, affordable, nothing special. And honestly, I didn't blame them for assuming. They never imagined I could own something even remotely close to luxury. "Emma, over here," Jessica called out from across the room. She looked beautiful, glowing in an off-shoulder white midi dress, her rings sparkling under the chandelier. She hugged me quickly, then whispered, "I hope your gift is something on the registry this time. Last year for my birthday you brought, well, whatever that handmade thing was." "It was a hand-painted silk scarf from Kyoto," I reminded her gently. She waved her hand. Right. Artsy stuff." She turned away before I could say anything else. It stung. It always did. But I had gotten used to swallowing little hurts from her. Jessica was the golden child, the princess. Everything she did was praised. Everything I did was questioned. "Still single, Em?" my cousin Lauren asked as she passed behind me, not even waiting for an answer. I took a deep breath. These comments usually rolled off me by now, but today they felt sharper. Another cousin chimed in from near the dessert table. "At least your sister married well. Maybe you'll meet someone soon. Don't give up hope." I forced a smile. "Thanks. I'm not in a rush." Of course I wasn't in a rush. I was running a company. I had built something worth millions. I had contracts across 3 countries. I had meetings with investors and lawyers and brand partners. Romance wasn't off the table, but it wasn't my priority. But none of that mattered to them. To them, value equaled marriage rings, diaper bags, and Pinterest-worthy family photos. I poured myself a glass of sparkling water and found a corner to breathe for a moment. My phone buzzed inside my pocket. A name flashed across the screen. Daniel Pierce, legal advisor. I blinked in surprise. Daniel never called unless something major was happening. I stepped aside near the hallway and answered quietly. "Hi, Daniel. Is everything okay?" "Better than okay," he said. "Congratulations, Emma. The final valuation came in this morning. The board approved of a merger. Your equity stake is confirmed at $4.8 million. I know you were worried about negotiations, but everything went through." My breath caught. I leaned against the wall, clutching my phone. I had been waiting months for this confirmation, months of late nights, endless revisions, and tense calls. And it finally happened, right here, in the middle of a bridal shower where my biggest accomplishment, according to my family, was staying thin and polite. "That's incredible," I whispered. "We'll finalize documents next week. Enjoy your weekend," he said before hanging up. I slid my phone back into my pocket, my heart humming with pride I couldn't show. If I told my family, they wouldn't believe me. They never did, and I didn't need their applause. Or so I kept telling myself. I walked back into the living room where everyone had gathered around the table to start opening gifts. Jessica squealed as she unwrapped a stand mixer, then a designer toaster, then a 4-slot luggage set. Every gift came with applause and commentary. When it was time for my gift, Jessica picked up the silk ribboned box from the table. "This one's from Emma," she announced with a little smile, not a grateful smile, but more like she was bracing herself for disappointment. She opened the box and lifted the crystal-stemmed champagne flutes I had selected, delicate, handcrafted, imported from a boutique artisan. "Oh, Aunt Margaret echoed. "They're fancy," one cousin whispered under her breath, as if that were somehow a bad thing. Jessica cleared her throat. "Well, thank you, Emma. They're unique." My cheeks warmed, but I stayed composed. "You're welcome." But then it happened, the moment that sparked the avalanche. Jessica reached out and touched my necklace. "This is cute. Where'd you get this?" "Oh, yes," Lauren added. "I saw something like this on that cheap accessory site. What's it called? Sparkle something?" Aunt Margaret laughed softly. "Emma's always been thrifty. Nothing wrong with costume jewelry, dear." And then the words that froze the room for me. Jessica snorted and said, "Yeah, Emma can't afford real jewelry. But it's adorable that you try to dress up." The room erupted with gentle chuckles. I stood still, my pulse pounding in my ears. I felt the weight of the diamond against my skin, heavy with irony. They had no idea. But what they didn't know was something that stretched far beyond the necklace, something even I didn't realize would come spilling out in front of them later. Before I could react, my phone buzzed again. I stepped aside and checked it. A message from a journalist I had spoken to weeks ago popped up. "Hi, Emma. The Forbes feature goes live tonight. Congrats again. Your profile looks incredible." My stomach flipped. Forbes? I was about to be featured in Forbes Women in Business 30 Innovators Under 30, with a detailed story about how I built my company from the ground up. They even included the fact I'd recently bought a penthouse downtown worth $890,000, one I hadn't told anyone about yet. I hadn't planned for the family to find out. I wanted privacy, peace, a life outside their judgments. But life has a way of pushing truths into the light when the time is right. I slipped outside for a moment, pretending I needed fresh air, though in truth I needed distance. The bridal shower had drifted into one of those chaotic in-between phases. Half the women were helping bring out desserts, and the others were gossiping near the patio doors. I leaned against the railing in the backyard, letting the late afternoon sun warm my shoulders. I needed a second to collect myself, to keep the embarrassment from seeping too deeply. The sliding door opened behind me. Aunt Margaret stepped out, carrying a plate of mini lemon tarts. "Emma," she said in that sugary voice she used when she wanted something, "you should smile more inside. Today is a celebration, not whatever you're going through." "I'm fine," I said. She gave me that pitying look, the one that made me 12 years old again. "You know, dear, it's not shameful to admit you're struggling. We all hit rough patches. Maybe if you asked Jessica for job advice." I blinked at her, surprised. "Advice about what?" "Sweetheart," she said softly, as if delivering sad news. "About getting a stable career, something respectable, something reliable. You can't keep bouncing between little online jobs forever." My jaw tightened. "I don't bounce between anything." She sighed, as if I were being difficult. "It's nothing to be ashamed of. Not everyone can be successful." I bit the inside of my cheek to keep from laughing. If only she knew. But revealing anything right now felt impulsive, emotional, and I didn't want that. I wanted control. Just then, the door opened again, and Jessica stepped out, fanning her face. It's so hot. Mom, do we have more Prosecco?" She glanced at me briefly. "Emma, you should come back in. We're doing the ring game." "I'll be there in a moment," I said. Jessica nodded but paused, narrowing her eyes. "By the way, no offense, but did you get that necklace from one of those pop-up markets? It's okay if you did. You don't have to pretend it's fancy." I didn't respond. I wasn't going to defend myself. That would make me look insecure, and I wasn't. She shrugged when I stayed quiet. "Don't be sensitive. We're just teasing." Then she slipped back inside. Aunt Margaret touched my arm gently. "Don't take her comments so seriously. She's just excited about her big day, and she's always been more polished than you." Polished. There it was again, the implication that I lacked something essential, some shine, some quality my family valued. I headed back inside a few minutes later, determined to get through the rest of the event gracefully. Dessert was being served, white chocolate mousse cubs and mini pavlovas topped with berries. The living room buzzed with chatter and clinking forks. Jessica was showing off her engagement ring to two neighbors who couldn't believe how big it was. Lauren called out, "Emma, come sit with us. We're talking about everyone's 5-year plan." I sat down reluctantly. They went around the circle, sharing predictable answers. Babies, buying houses, promotions, luxury vacations. Then, it was my turn. Lauren's smart. "So, Emma, what's your 5-year plan?" I hesitated. Not because I didn't know, but because my goals didn't match what they wanted to hear. I wasn't planning babies, or a suburban house, or anything conventional. "I'm focusing on expanding my business, and I want to invest in—" Lauren interrupted. "Business? Like a real one? Or those little online things you tinker with?" Jessica chimed in sweetly. "Be nice, Lauren. Everyone has hobbies." I exhaled, slow and controlled. "It's not a hobby." "Okay, but what do you actually do all day? You never talk about it." "Because every time I bring it up, you change the subject." Jessica laughed. "Oh, please. If you had something impressive to share, you would have." That one cut deeper than the others. It wasn't the words, it was the absolute certainty in her tone. She truly believed I was insignificant. But what they didn't know was something was coming that none of us, not even I, had expected at that moment. My phone buzzed again, this time louder, because the room had grown quieter while someone told a story about destination wedding plans. I glanced down and frowned. It was an email from Forbes editorial. "Your article is now live. Congratulations again. We're tagging you on Instagram shortly." My breath hitched. It was happening. Today. Right now. Jessica noticed. "Who keeps blowing up your phone? Some guy?" "No, just work," I said gently. Can it wait? Today is about me." I slipped the phone into my pocket. I silently promised myself I wouldn't say a word. Not yet. This was her day. But fate is funny. It doesn't always care about timing. 15 minutes later, one of Jessica's friends, Melissa, squealed from across the room. "Oh my God, guys, you won't believe who just got featured in Forbes." Everyone perked up. Forbes was a big deal in this circle. Half of Jessica's friends lived for business news that made them feel sophisticated. Melissa waved her phone. "Oh my God, this woman is under 30 and built a multi-million-dollar brand. It's crazy. Look." Her voice trailed off. Her eyes widened. Then she slowly turned her phone toward the group. The headline read, "Meet Emma Hale, the innovator behind the 23 million digital commerce revolution." And there it was. My photo, my name, my story. My heart thudded against my ribs. Jessica blinked. "Wait, what? No, that can't be right." Aunt Margaret leaned forward, squinting. "Is that our Emma?" Melissa looked between me and the screen. Yeah, it literally says Emma Hale, and that's definitely you." Silence stretched like a live wire across the room. You could hear the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. What is this?" Jessica asked quietly, her voice flattened. I swallowed. "It's an article about my company." Lauren barked a short laugh. "Your company? Like what company?" Before I could answer, Melissa kept reading out loud like she'd been cast in a dramatic monologue. It says here she co-founded a digital commerce platform valued at $23 million after a growth surge last quarter. And, oh, she personally owns $4.8 million in equity? The room rippled with shocked gasps. Jessica stared at me like I had morphed into another person. This has to be a joke. Aunt Margaret's face drained of color. "Emma, is this true?" I nodded calmly. "Yes, it is. But you live in that tiny apartment," Jessica sputtered. "I bought a penthouse in June. I just haven't moved in yet." Melissa scrolled. It even mentions that. Oh my God, her recent purchase of an $890,000 penthouse marks a milestone in her rapid financial ascent. Jessica's mouth fell open. "Wait, so you're rich?" That word felt strange, inaccurate, loaded. "I'm successful," I said instead. "No way!" Lauren shook her head in disbelief. No way. You? Emma? How?" I shrugged lightly. Hard work, long nights, and believing in myself when people didn't. It was subtle, but every woman in the room knew the meaning behind that last part. The silence grew heavier. Then Jessica blurted the line I expected least. "But your necklace. If you're successful, why wear fake jewelry?" I touched the diamond lightly. "It's not fake." Jessica scoffed. "Please, you don't spend money on jewelry." I met her gaze. "Jessica, that necklace costs $320,000. The reaction was instantaneous, a collective, stunned inhale. Melissa choked on her drink. Aunt Margaret whispered, 120. Emma, what?" Jessica's eyes widened like she'd been slapped. "That's the price of a house." "Yes," I said softly. "It is." The room erupted into chaos. Questions, disbelief, whispers, awkward apologies forming in half sentences. But I stood still, quiet, composed. What happened next left them completely speechless. Because my phone buzzed again, and this time someone saw the notification light up. "Incoming transfer, $250,000, confirmation received." The room fell silent once more. Jessica mouthed, "You gotta be kidding me." I didn't even have to explain. The truth was explaining itself. Everyone was staring at my phone screen as if it were a bomb about to go off. The notifications still glowed brightly, the numbers so large it felt impossible for them to ignore. $250,000 transfer confirmed. The room that had been buzzing with excitement minutes before now felt hollow and frozen. Jessica's friends exchanged stunned glances. My cousins looked like they were trying to solve a riddle with no answer. And Aunt Margaret, she slowly lowered herself into a nearby chair, her hand shaking slightly as she reached for a napkin. Jessica spoke first, her voice thin. Who sends you that kind of money? My business partner. It's part of our quarterly distributions, nothing unusual. She blinked as if she didn't understand the words. Quarterly what? Melissa attempted to whisper but failed miserably. She means she gets payments like that regularly. Jessica's face blanched. Regularly? Yes, I said gently. Lauren threw her hands up. Okay, wait, just wait. You're telling me you've been sitting here acting all quiet and invisible while you're worth millions? I haven't been acting invisible. You just weren't looking. A hush fell over the room again. I could almost hear everyone replaying every comment, every snicker, every assumption they had ever made about me. I felt a strange mixture of sadness and peace. Sadness because it shouldn't have taken dollar signs for them to treat me differently. Peace because the truth was out, cleanly, simply, without me bragging or trying to make anyone feel small. Still, the tension lingered, heavy and uncomfortable. I exhaled, smoothing my blouse, and said, I should go. I think I've become a distraction. No, stay, Aunt Margaret said quickly, please. But Jessica didn't say anything. She looked at me with a mixture of resentment and fragile vulnerability, like her sense of superiority had cracked, and she didn't know who she was without it. I don't want to take attention away from your celebration. This day is about you. I turned toward the door, but Jessica suddenly reached out. Wait. I stopped. Her voice softened, barely. Can we talk? Alone. The room watched with rapt attention as we stepped into the hallway. Jessica closed the door behind us. The hallway smelt like flowers and expensive candles, but the tension between us made the space feel colder. She stared at me for a long moment. I didn't mean to make fun of you. Yes, you did, I said, not unkindly. She winced. Okay, fine, I did. But not like... Her voice cracked. I just thought you were behind. I didn't know. You weren't supposed to know, I reminded her. She pressed her lips together. Do you hate me? No, I said instantly. I don't hate you, but I'm learning to set boundaries. Jessica nodded slowly, absorbing that. So, what now? Are we okay? I looked at her, really looked at her. My cousin, the girl who always got the attention, the girl who got everything handed to her, but who now looked lost. We can be okay, I said softly, but it may take some time. She swallowed hard. I'm sorry, Emma. It was the most sincere thing she'd said to me in years. I nodded and walked back out to grab my bag. The others were still quietly buzzing, whispering, scrolling, processing. I gave faint smiles and polite nods as I left. The cool air outside felt like freedom, like finally exhaling after holding in a breath for too long. By the time I got to my car, I felt lighter, stronger, clearer. As I drove home, messages pinged into my phone from investors, business partners, friends who'd seen the Forbes post. And then a new message from my real estate agent. Penthouse keys ready for pickup anytime. I smiled. The timing felt poetic. The next morning, I walked into my new place, a sprawling space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Sunlight flooded the room, bouncing off the marble countertops and open layout. I had done this. I had built this. Without applause, without validation, without needing anyone to believe in me first. A peace settled over me, one I'd been craving for years. A week later, Jessica reached out again, this time asking if we could grab coffee. I agreed. We met at a quiet cafe near my office. She looked humbled, maybe even nervous, but she was trying to be genuine, trying to rebuild something. And I gave her that chance, but with boundaries. She didn't brag as much. She didn't snap as quickly. She asked me about my work. Real questions, not ones designed to mock me. And for the first time in a long time, she actually listened. Our relationship didn't magically transform into a perfect one, but it became honest. And that was enough for me. Months later, when my company hit another milestone, she sent me a handwritten note. It wasn't long, but it meant everything. I'm proud of you. I'm learning from you. And I'm grateful we're cousins. From Jessica.